Hey guys, it's Greg with By the Bootstraps, btbootstraps.com. Check out the social media, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to. I heard in the on the news today, on the talk station, that there was a yoga instructor in Seattle who was conducting a white yoga, white supremacy, in dealing with white shame and white guilt and how to communicate with people of color. So I first heard this and I just said, this sounds too stupid to be true. So I went online, found the story. So from Fox News, I'm going to read this story in its entirety real quick just to kind of put this into context and then give you my thoughts on it. Okay, so it says, white yoga teacher holding class for white people to learn how to learn how to deal with white supremacy and their body, mind, and heart. A white Seattle yoga instructor is holding a class geared exclusively towards white people to teach how white supremacy is prevalent in their body, mind, and heart. Laura Humph, an ugly-ass 39-year-old yoga instructor since 2004, publicized an ongoing whiteness yoga class this spring in which white people will learn to unpack the harmful ways white supremacy is embedded in the society and how they continue to perpetuate it. She says, I do stand behind white people needing to talk with other white people and how to undo whiteness. I can't keep refining it and doing it differently and better. Yeah, I will forever and ever. But I believe in this space as one tool, she told the Seattle Times. She added that her class includes yoga postures and reading from a book aimed at helping white people deal with race-based conversations. This inspiration for a new class came after noticing how white people appeared in yoga spaces in racist ways. I was seeing white people show up to yoga spaces in racist ways, Humph told the Times, pointing to a white yoga instructor who apparently made a racial charged joke, as well as saying all lives mattered in yoga. So why see color? She also said an Indian meditator master was controversially removed from the Northwest Yoga Conference. Gives no context as to this. And she also does not say how these white racists showed up into yoga class in racist ways. Her class is to neutralize defensiveness, perfectionism, and the white savior complex as participants try to physically interpret words such as oppression and liberation. And let's see here. And I'm actually done with reading that. It goes on for a little bit longer. And I actually went to the Seattle Times to find that story, which is the most insane, virtual signaling, droll, vile bullshit that I have seen in a long time. It basically claims that you're white, therefore you have white privilege, and that you're a racist. But by being white, they even make a claim here in the Seattle Times that 75% of all white people do not have friends of color, which, by the way, they call it POC. Which, fuck off, really? People of color is now an acronym, POC, as though you're just supposed to know what that stands for. You know, I can't help that you people who see this and participate in this feel shame or guilt because of something you had nothing to do with, right? I had nothing to do with being born white. I didn't ask to be born white. I didn't go out of my way to be born white. I can't help that my two parents were white. You know, just as like, I could never see myself walking up to a black guy or an Asian guy or a Latino or anything else and saying, hey, you need to deal with your skin color issues because you just so happen to be born that way. You know, I've never heard anyone say you need to deal with your blackness, or you need to deal with your Hispanicness, you need to deal with your Asianness, or I know these are stupid terms, obviously, but I've never seen that. Why in the world is it considered to be a negative thing to be white? You know, and all these people who come out there and say, well, that's because you have privilege. I've done videos before in the past that talked about how, yeah, I don't think so, buddy. You know, everything I have, everything that my wife and I have acquired, it's been through hard work, sacrifice, sweat, tears, blood. You know, we made stuff of ourselves, and we're still doing so. You know, both of us are looking to go back to school. you know, to finish, for me to finish my computer science degree, for her to get her accounting degree, you know. We're going to have to go through that process and put the time and effort and energy into it. Are we getting a free handshake for that? You know, are they saying, hey, here's your degree just because you're white? I guess it must be some of that privilege. But in the meantime, they want to talk about privilege. Okay, let's talk about affirmative action. Let's talk about the programs that have been designated by the government and by the states to allow minorities to have better options, more choices, money given to them, more government assistance and things like that. I mean, you want to talk about, you know, privilege. There is some privilege to be said there, you know. And on the contrary of what these people want to talk about or not want to talk about, there are more white people in poverty in America than anywhere else, at least when it comes to the world. But you know why? It's because our population is primarily still white. So therefore, you're going to have more white interactions because of that. You know, just like more whites are shot by police officers on average than black. And the number is staggering. I think it's 3-4 to 1. But again, that would make sense because there is primarily more white people. Just like there's more white people in prison overall than than other minorities. You know, that never gets reported. You know, there's a lot of things that white people go through too that are just as significant as minorities, but it never gets talked about because it's like it's overlooked, like it doesn't happen. You know, you want to look at things that happen to our minorities and you completely ignore all those factual statistical data that you can get online, that you can get from the department, the DOJ, I think it is, that you can get all that information on. They put out a survey, I think every other year, that puts out the statistics and the stats about who's committing the crimes, what crimes are being committed, who's in jail, who's in poverty. I mean, this is all statistical data that is collected by the U.S. government. You know, and if you just have a monocle of a conscience there, and you want to be consistent, you could easily find this information, you could easily dissect it yourself, you could easily come to your own conclusions, and everything that I just said would be proven factually true. But because you don't want to hear it, or because you don't want to acknowledge it, or because you want to live under some, you know, woke, liberated status, you're choosing to ignore facts. And that's why we get stupid shit like this. The hilariousness is that it's a white woman talking about white supremacy. Bitch, what would you know about that? You know, you talk about, you know, you talk in the Seattle Times article about privilege and, you know, and white supremacy and things like that. Don't you think this might make more relevant sense if you're asking a person of color, you know, an African American, which I like to just say American, you know, an Asian American, again, American. Wouldn't it make more sense to ask someone who is a person of color who could have done this class themselves? Or do you mean to tell me that you're the only qualified dumbass bitch who could put this class together because of all your life experiences? How are you going to lecture other people on something that you yourself are? You know, that's like having a pub crawl for an alcoholic. That it makes no sense. You know, had this come out, first of all, had this come out from anyone else, including a person of color, I would have laughed at this and said that this is incredibly racist in and of itself. See, there's the irony too. You talk about racism, but you don't understand that what you're doing is just as equally racist, because you're sitting there saying that because the virtue of you being born the way you were, at no choice of your own, you are inherently racist. Well, that same philosophy could be applied to every race, first of all, but second of all, you're specifically targeting whites. So that means it's not reverse racism, it's racism. It's the same damn thing, but you're choosing to ignore it. I don't understand why this crap happened. In fact, I do understand it. You know, it didn't surprise me when I saw that this was in Seattle. You know, if you would have said Atlanta, Georgia, I probably would have been like, wow, that's surprising. If you would have said, you know, Salt Lake City, I would say, wow, that's kind of surprising. But when you say Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, you know, LA, New York, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, I go, yeah, that's not shocking. Because only an idiot would do something like this. and only idiots would go to it. Anyway, comment below, let me know what you guys think. Again, check out the store, it's www.btbootstraps.com. Check out the social medias, like and subscribe. Bye.